So we are discussing the conclusions of the book after going through the three sections: state of the world, approaching the world, and changing the world. So we are discussing here each section in the context of what may favor the change and what may inhibit the change that we need to make to stay on the sustainable development pathway and manage risk and bring about resilience. So continuing the discussion on the state of the world, it seems like our tremendous capacity for change is restricted by the inherent ambiguity in what the future holds for us. Science cannot supply completely lucid and unambiguous answers in our complex and dynamic world, and whatever scientific consensus is undermined by the ferocious spread of disinformation by agents wanting to maintain status quo. So obviously the state of the world is not such that everybody is scared and wants to make a change, that there are some agents, let's say energy companies or politicians, who are still interested in maintaining status quo, even if it takes disinformation to be spread widely and extensively. The future will always be uncertain, but we must realize that the only thing we can do is to act the best way we can with the best information we have at hand. Regardless of differences in details, more or less the entire scientific community is pointing out that we are rapidly moving toward a very undesirable future, and most climate community insists that we must act now. Of course, that's where the disconnect can be many times, because how decisions are made by politicians, by governments, by economic considerations and so on are not so much pure science, or science doesn't play as big a role as we imagine often. There are many other socio-economic factors, national security factors, or wait and see attitudes are involved, and there are literally winners and losers as well. So climate action may not bring everybody positive benefits. Somebody will have to sacrifice something for the sake of others for the overall sustainability pathway that we have to stay on. The two great transformations in our past altered fundamentally our relationships among ourselves and with our environment. They were both unimaginable before they occurred, but seem completely self-evident with hindsight. Considering the dire state that we are increasingly realizing we are in, we are again in need of a new great transformation, which we said already. We are indeed experiencing more rapid change than ever before in human history, so perhaps we are in it already. So obviously many things like deployment of renewables and electric vehicles and the general awareness are kind of the beginnings of a change. Whether that's transformational or if it's moving fast enough, if it's really making us resilient, are all open questions. However, we must make sure we do everything we can to intentionally align various economic, political and ideological factors to facilitate and steer such transformation toward sustainability, though the end result might be impossible to fully foresee or comprehend at this time. So we are dealing with uncertainties that are unknown and evolving, and we are heading towards a future that is sustainable by design that we are trying to implement, but the end result is still not so obvious. So having an optimistic vision for the future can become difficult in this case. So the prop here, uncertainty just ahead. So the only uncertainty concerning our future is that it is uncertain. So maybe to use John F. Kennedy's words, only thing we have to be uncertain about is uncertainty itself. There you go. That's my original quote now. Okay. However, we must remember that we have been faced with serious sustainability challenges over millennia, and we have prevailed so far, at times with great costs or even entire societies collapsing. Humanity has always moved on. The main issue at stake is thus not the survival of our species. Instead, it is what costs in human and material terms that we will have to pay this time around. So people are scared of paying for the future of the environment or sustainability. I always like to remind people that we do worry about the future in terms of insurance or saving for the future. People plan to get married before they even have children. They start to save for college funds for the children and so on. They insure their houses, their cars and so on for future damages, potential future damages, and so on. But when it comes to common goods like the environment, we are not so good at thinking about the future and costing it in terms of what should we invest now to leave a better environment for our own kids for whom we are saving college funds, right? These costs, so instead it is what costs in human and material terms that we will have to pay this time around that dominates people's psyche about change. These costs are determined by when and how we start to substantially address our contemporary sustainability challenges. The message is nonetheless very clear. The sooner the better, the more the merrier. But this doesn't mean everybody is on the same page here. To summarize, sustainability science provides a descriptive framework of the core challenges of humankind, describing their causes and effects as well as their past, present, and many potential futures, the scenarios for the futures, or what if scenarios. This book has merely touched upon a fraction of the knowledge accumulated during sustainability science's short but intense history of transdisciplinary research and action up to now, much of which is drawing from important disciplinary efforts in anthropology, archaeology, design, engineering, geography, public administration, sociology, and so on, but amalgamated to explain and understand our precarious situation as a whole. So these words about precarious, dangerous, and so on are somewhat subjective, because precarious in terms of what? We are not going to collapse tomorrow, but when will we collapse, or will we ever collapse, and how can we avoid this? This is the main challenge in terms of what science can actually tell us at local scales where most of these decisions have to be made, and whether they are reliable enough in terms of the potential futures that we are looking at. Okay, so we will leave this here again, slightly shorter than usual, but we'll come back and look at approaching the world in the conclusion part, discussing change in the context of what we already discussed before in approaching the world. Okay, so see you in the next podcast.